With the NBA on track to resume play at around the end of July, things are going to look a lot different. Throughout the regular season, before everything stopped, we had a pretty good idea of what each team succeeded in doing, where they struggled, and who their key players are, and even now we still know a lot of these things, but after 5 months without play, some may need a refresher. Plus, the purpose of this video is actually to look deeper than the top dogs on each team, and instead, we will be going through every team that will be attending Orlando to play, and we'll be identifying the one player that is their biggest X factor, meaning that this is the player that is capable of making or breaking the success of the team because he's capable of being a big difference maker, but isn't necessarily one of the team's best players. This will be a two-part series, with this video focusing on the Eastern Conference, and my next video is going to be the Western Conference. Before we start though, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. Going in order of the standings, we'll be starting with the Milwaukee Bucks, and their biggest X factor down the stretch of the season is Brook Lopez. The Bucks have one of the most dominant defenses not only in the league this year, but numbers suggest that it might be all-time great, and while Giannis Antetokounmpo gets a lot of the shine as a dominant two-way player, many have pointed out that Lopez very well might be the team's best defender and key to success on that end of the floor. He's been an excellent shot blocker, a very impactful rim protector, and he contests and defends more shots than anyone else in the entire NBA. Offensively, he's been struggling for a large part of the season, and after becoming a highly effective three-point shooter over the last few years, he's taken a big step back this season. With so much time off though, he very well might be able to break that shooting slump, and if Lopez starts knocking them down while also contributing elite defense, the Bucks will be even scarier than they already are. The next team in the standings is the Toronto Raptors, and the X factor of their team upon return is Terence Davis. Davis has proven to be one of the best low-key finds in the whole league this year, because after going undrafted, he became a steady and reliable member of the rotation of the defending champions. He scores the ball efficiently, making 46% of his shots and about 40% of his threes. He plays solid defense, and he knows his role and does it well. Despite this though, he only plays the 10th most minutes per game on the team, being near the end of the rotation, so he does his work in short stints. The thing is though, that usually rookies take a big leap from year 1 to year 2 because they get a full off season as a professional, but with this 5-month break, I'm anticipating that he's been working hard and as a result will be even more comfortable in the league when it comes back. He should definitely get more minutes than Patrick McCaw in the rotation when they start playing again, and in a bigger role, he could solidify a very strong Raptors rotation even further. The next team in the standings is the Boston Celtics, and the X factor of their team upon return is Marcus Smart. Smart is an easy choice for a topic like this because he's been their X factor for years now, and in this kind of role, he thrives. Smart is the heart and soul of the Celtics. He can fill in and play a bunch of different roles, kind of like a Swiss Army knife, and his disruptive, intense defense ignites those around him. Whether he starts or comes off the bench, he's trusted as a top contributor and makes so many big plays, and with his jump shot continuing to show good signs of improvement after struggling in that area for years, he can now give them even more. He's still a bit inconsistent from the perimeter, but when he's on, he can catch fire quickly, and when that happens, things open up for guys like Jason Tatum and Kemba Walker even more, and at that point, the Celtics are tough to stop. The next team up in the standings is the Miami Heat, and their biggest X factor upon return is Jae Crowder. Crowder joined the team late in the season when he was attached to the package that included Andre Iguodala in a trade, and while Iggy got a lot of the attention as the guy that was expected to become the team's X factor, Crowder was actually the one that has made the biggest impact. On the year as a whole, Crowder has been struggling offensively, shooting 37% from the field and only 29% from 3 with the Memphis Grizzlies, but once he arrived in Miami, he turned things around quickly, and in 13 games with them, he's averaging 11 points per game while shooting an impressive 44% from the field and 39% from 3. Crowder's an experienced veteran that has played big games throughout his career. He plays solid defense on the perimeter, and if his shot continues to fall like it has since he's gotten to Miami, then the team filled with young, inexperienced talent can find a good mix with their new veteran contributors for the playoffs. Next up in the standings is the Indiana Pacers, and their biggest X factor upon return is Malcolm Brogdon. Brogdon is a player that, when the team signed him, had some big expectations, and in some ways this year, he's lived up to the hype, but in other ways, he's faltered a bit. Now being used as a lead guard with more freedom to create, his playmaking has resulted in him averaging a career-high 7 assists per game, which is definitely a good thing for both him and the Pacers. But one of the biggest strengths that he had before this season was how efficient of a scorer he was, and now that he's been put in a bigger offensive role, that efficiency has taken a dip. He is averaging a career high in points per game at over 16 per game, but he's only shooting 44% from the field and 31% from 3, both being career lows, and overall, it's slightly below league average. With Victor Oladipo likely coming back healthier and ready to take over as the #1 option on the team, this could mean Brogdon can settle into more of a comfortable secondary role, which then could result in his play improving. Next in the standings is the Philadelphia 76ers, and their biggest X factor upon return is Shake Milton. Milton is a very pleasant surprise for the Sixers, because after being a late second-round pick that only played sparingly for most of his career so far, he was given a chance due to injuries, and he took it and ran with it. In theory, he brings everything the Sixers need offensively, because as a shot-creating guard, he can comfortably drive to the basket and finish through contact, he's a very good shooter from the perimeter, and he can operate pick and rolls. When the team needed someone to step their game up without Simmons and Embiid, he was the one who answered the call, and before play was stopped, he was heating up. In the 7 games before play was stopped, he was averaging over 19 points per game while shooting a scorching hot 59% from the field and 61% from 3. Obviously, those are not numbers that anyone should expect him to maintain, but it shows that he can be a valuable offensive contributor, and he might even be the missing piece that the Sixers have been looking for. Next in the standings is the Brooklyn Nets, and their biggest X factor upon return is Joe Harris. It has been reported that the Nets will not have either Kyrie Irving or Kevin Durant when play resumes, which means they're going to need some role players to really step up their play, and Harris is the guy to do so. He's really come into his own over these last few years as a genuinely great sharpshooter on the wing, last year having shot 47% from 3, and this year he's shooting 41%, but his performance in the playoffs last season was, to put it nicely, not something he wishes to remember. It was the first time he was a key member of a playoff rotation, and he didn't handle the spotlight very well, shooting just 19% from deep against Philadelphia as his team lost in 5 games. This year, he's in the same role, but while he faltered on the big stage last season, perhaps he'll be more comfortable with more experience this year, because his shooting ability is very much needed for an undermanned Nets team. The next team up in the standings is the Orlando Magic, and their biggest X factor upon return is Terrence Ross. Ross signed a nice 4-year, $54 million contract this summer, but his play on the season has been pretty up and down. This is how he's been as a player for most of his career, but when he's on, he can really tilt things in favor of his team. Because the Magic will likely be the 8th seed in the playoffs, it means they'll be playing the Bucks, who are incredibly talented top to bottom and perform well on both ends of the floor. So what the Magic need in order to even have a remote chance of winning is a guy capable of catching fire and making things happen in a short amount of time, and that's exactly what Terrence Ross's game is. It by no means is guaranteed, because he is very inconsistent, but he does have it in him. And finally, the last team from the East that will be playing in Orlando is the Washington Wizards, and while it's a long shot for them to make the playoffs, their X factor is Rui Hachimura. The Wizards don't exactly have a lot of talent, so making one final push to the playoffs will by no means be easy, and Bradley Beal will have to continue to carry them a ton when he begins to play. But Hachimura will benefit a ton from the same thing that I mentioned with Terence Davis earlier. Rookies typically take big steps forward from their first season to their second season, because going into their first professional off-season, they know more about how to train and where to train in order to improve. But with this particular circumstance, they basically just had an entire off-season's worth of time off to train, so Hachimura's development could begin to flash in these 8 games. Hachimura's a player with a terrific motor, and with a little more refining, he could become a very high-level player in the league. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below who you think could be an X factor for some of these teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.